This right here is the Pixel 6a. It's an incredibly affordable Android handset from Google. And I'm going to compare it to Apple's own iPhone SE, the most recent one that recently came out. And while these are both running competing operating systems, it's a really neat comparison for a well-off budget smartphone. So which one is the better phone, and which one should you buy? Because those answers aren't always going to be the same. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Welcome everybody to Apple Insider. It is Andrew here, and I'm going to be comparing the new Google Pixel 6a to Apple's 2022 iPhone SE. I'm going to first walk through the specs and some general comparisons of the two devices, and round it out with some opinions toward the end on which one is better and which one you should probably buy. Let's go ahead and dive into all of this. Let's hit some high-level specs. The Google Pixel 6a. Let's start off with some specs. First, the iPhone SE. This is the 2022 version, so the most recent, and the design really hasn't changed in a few years. Not like that's necessarily a good or bad thing, it just hasn't really changed if you're familiar with previous versions of an iPhone SE or an iPhone 8. But it has a glass front and back with an aluminum body. There's a single camera on the back and a single camera on the front. By default, for $429, you'll get 64 gigs of storage, though you can upgrade to 128 or 256 gigs if 64 isn't enough. And frankly, 64 gigs of storage is not a lot of storage. Unless you just really want to pay the minimum, it's probably better to upgrade to at least like 128, which happens to be what the Pixel 6a starts with. So the Pixel 6a, it still has kind of a plasticky glass body to it, so it's still like similar construction, and it weighs a little bit more. It's a bit of a larger phone because it has a larger screen. The iPhone SE has a 4.7-inch display versus a 6.1-inch display here on the Pixel 6a. The Pixel 6a comes with 128 gigs of storage, and that's it. There's no micro SD card slot, and there's no option to jump up to 256. You're just stuck with 128. At least it's better than the 64 gigs that the iPhone starts with. Now, this will run you $450, so it's technically $20 more than the iPhone, but you get double the storage. So $450 with 128 gigs of storage, or $429 for only 64 gigs of storage. Google is using their own Tensor chip on the inside, whereas the iPhone SE is running Apple's latest A15 Bionic processor. The A15 Bionic processor is a powerful chip and one of the biggest differentiators between these two devices. Apple is using their high-end flagship chip in their most entry-level phone. The A15 Bionic is an incredibly capable chip that is in even Apple's Pro series of iPhones. So to have its most powerful chip in a basic entry-level phone is pretty impressive. And the Geekbench scores back that up. The iPhone SE scores a 1744 and a 4859 on the single and multi-core test, whereas the Google Pixel 6a scores a 1049 and a 2902. We have almost double that multi-core score, and the single core is equally as impressive, almost double as well. There is no doubt that the iPhone SE is a much more capable phone than the Pixel 6a, but that's only part of the story. If I could just interrupt myself for a moment, I have to thank our sponsor for this video, Meross. Meross creates some great devices for HomeKit, and they're ridiculously affordable. This right here is one of Meross's smart bulbs. You can easily change the color right from the Home app to anything that you'd like. Go through reds, blues, greens, yellows, pinks, purples, or you can just stick with white. And there's temperature control, so you can go warm temperature if you want during the evenings, or switch it up to be cooler and more focused during the day. It's very easy to use and pairs effortlessly with the Home app. Plus, it is connected over Wi-Fi, which means you have a great connection throughout your house. I also love Meross's smart plugs. Check these out. They even come in a 2-pack, and they're ultra compact, so you can use 2 of them in a single outlet at the same time. You can easily stack them on top of one another and control two devices through one set of receptacles. These are awesome to control so many different things throughout your home, whether you want to automate a fan that you have or a humidifier or dehumidifier that you have, turning on some Christmas lights or accent lights. So much stuff can be controlled with these smart plugs. These are not the only devices that Meross makes. Meross has a whole portfolio of HomeKit devices, and they just keep launching more. If you want to learn more about Meross, follow the link down below in the description and pick some up. Let me know what you guys think. I've been using their stuff for a while now. It's been great and reliable. Thank you again to Meross for sponsoring this video. Apple says the iPhone SE is capable of about 15 or so hours of battery life. It's all-day battery life, should get you through an entire day without issue. But the Google Pixel 6a is rated for over 24 hours of use. Much more battery life than the Pixel 6a than the iPhone SE. But it's pretty obvious to start of why. I mean, the Pixel is a larger phone than the iPhone is. It's a notably larger device, which means it's got a bigger battery in there. Also, the chip doesn't run as powerful as the iPhone SE, so it doesn't need to run as much. It's able to save on battery that way as well. So you have much better battery life in the Pixel 6a. One thing that really irks me though is, as much as I like the Pixel 6a, I wish they'd include support for a Qi charger. Now, Apple supports Qi on the iPhone SE, but it doesn't support MagSafe. Still a downside for me, but seriously, at least there's wireless charging here. It drives me up a wall that Google opted not to include wireless charging on the Pixel 6a. Maybe that additional space yields a little bit better battery life. I'm gonna hope that's the reason why, but it's just a downer for me because I really prefer wireless charging. Now let's move on to the displays. The iPhone SE has a 4.7-inch display versus the 6.1-inch display of the Pixel 6a. That makes it about 1.4 inches larger on the Pixel than the iPhone. That is a big difference. Additionally, the bezels are much smaller, clearly, on the Pixel than the iPhone. The iPhone is letterboxed by big bars on the top and the bottom. The Pixel runs almost the entire front of the device. It even has a punch-out pinhole camera versus the camera in that top bar of the iPhone. Between the two, the Pixel has a far better looking display. Not just because it's larger and takes up more of the screen of the phone, but it also is a better display overall. It's an OLED display versus an LCD on the iPhone. You have much better blacks and it overall looks better. And it has a higher pixel density. The Pixel has a 429 ppi versus only 326 on the iPhone. And it makes even more of a difference because the iPhone screen is smaller. You're likely to hold it slightly closer to you versus the Pixel with a larger screen that you might hold slightly further. So it has more than 100 pixels per inch more than the iPhone does, and when you're holding it slightly further away from your face, they're going to be even smaller to your eye. So just a much better looking screen. Between OLED, higher pixel density, and larger, the Pixel has a fantastic screen, and it is no match for the iPhone. Even if it is still Retina quality, it includes features like True Tone. The OLED, higher pixel density, so much nicer on the Pixel 6a. Both phones support fingerprint recognition to gain authentication. Neither has facial recognition. The iPhone, it's using Touch ID there on that physical home button, whereas the Pixel has an in-display fingerprint reader, but it is a little bit slower, I found, when I was authenticating the device day to day. Touch ID just felt faster. I also believe that Touch ID is more secure than the Pixel one, but either way, we're looking at fingerprint recognition instead of facial recognition for authentication. For connectivity, both devices support 5G, the sub-6 GHz band, but the Pixel wins out because not only does it support 5G, but it supports Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.2. Apple is still not yet using Bluetooth 5.2 or Wi-Fi 6E. That brings us to the cameras. There's a big difference here as well. On the front-facing cameras, the Pixel is a little bit more of a wider lens. When I was taking some selfies, I felt like there was more in the shot. Is that good or is that bad? It kind of depends on preference. Sometimes I want it to be more cropped in and more on me or my wife, whatever it may be. Other times I want more of a wide shot. I do like the benefits of like the pro level iPhones where you can kind of like have the wide or the narrow shot there, but on this phone you're very stuck with that fixed POV. The same thing goes with the Pixel, you're stuck with that POV. So sometimes it feels too wide and I want to be a little bit closer, more intimate with the camera. And yeah, it just really depends on your preference of which one is the better of the two. In terms of resolution, the Pixel has a higher resolution front-facing camera at 8 megapixels to the iPhone 7. And yeah, you do notice the sharpness. Here's a selfie I took on each of them in the same studio setting here. You can see that the Pixel does, I think, look a bit better than the iPhone. Looking at the rear-facing cameras, they each have a 12 megapixel wide-angle lens, but the Pixel has an additional 12 megapixel ultra-wide-angle lens. Two cameras versus the iPhone's one. Definite win for the Pixel here. And snapping a quick photo just on my desk and taking some outside, I think the Pixel overall looked better. I don't know if it's just the additional computational photography they're doing because it's a similar resolution, but the photo came out sharper and better color balance than it did on the iPhone when shot in the exact same settings and not editing anything. So in terms of camera quality, I'd have to lean toward the Pixel once again. So let's round this up. Which of these two is the better device and which one should you buy? Well, if we're looking just at the raw specs, right? We're looking at the specs and the numbers. For almost all of that, I'm going to say the Pixel is the better phone. I mean, it has a cheaper price tag when you account for the same amount of storage. It has the much better display in there. It has the additional features with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi that the iPhone doesn't support. It has additional cameras, and the cameras it does have are better than that of the iPhones. For many reasons, I would lean towards the Pixel as the superior device, with one asterisk. The iPhone SE has the better chip on the inside. With the A15 Bionic, the iPhone SE should last much longer than the Pixel does. And to me, that is a very, very key differentiator, and it depends on what you're looking for out of your phone. If you want the better of the two devices today, the Pixel is better, even if it's running Android. But if you're looking for the device that's going to last longer, the iPhone might be your solution. It's definitely faster in using the phone. You can see it from everything from the fingerprint reader to moving between apps. It feels smooth and fast on the iPhone SE, and it'll likely last you for several years to come. I can't confidently say the same thing about the Pixel just due to the Tensor chip's limitations. So while I think today the Pixel is the better phone, if you're looking for something to last you a long, long time before you have to get a new phone, the iPhone SE may be the answer, even if a lot of its other specs fall a bit short. Let me know what you guys think, and if you'd like to buy the iPhone SE or the Pixel 6a. There are links and deals with discounts down below in the description. Let me know your preferred device in the comments or over on Twitter at Andrew_OSU, and stay tuned because I have so many more videos coming your way.